2011. Peace, peace, peace. We have new people on board, so we're also gonna go back to the root so that they can catch up with the rest of us. Doesn't take long to catch up. And then I'm not gonna say you're gonna catch up as far as the quotation or knowing the lessons or have read all the books and the material that's available today for knowledge of self, but you'll catch up with, you'll know where we're at. So in the beginning of knowledge of self, we all do the 3-day fast, right? So we've modified ours so that it's even easier to do. We're going to work with the 3-day fast, but we're going to do it in a 21-day increment. So the first 7 days of your fasting, you're just going to do raw fruit and vegetables. You're going to be on a raw food diet for those first 7 days to help the detoxification or to help get the devil off your planet. However you word it, right? We're taking the devil off our planet if we 120. If we're scholarly scholars, that's a good one, right? Scholarly scholars. And we're going to be very scholarly in our attempt to uncover the hidden history of our people, to counteract the false history that has been taught of our people. Right? So that means we're going to need to open up our blood vessels. We're going to need to open our liver and let the flow of the poison out of the body. The devil being on your planet, he's in every organ now. He's had 500 years. 1492 to 1555 is the indoctrination period. Pretty much that's what he's running around in the Americas, trying to build bases, killing as many as he can, terrorizing, putting the subjugated to hard labor. Prisoner of war camps. You had hard labor. Whatever prisoner of war camps do to you when they're not following the Geneva Convention. That's what the Europeans did in the Americas, right? The head of the European in those days was the Spanish Armada. They had the most power. Later on, you'll see, and this is for us who have been a lamb's wool that was indigenous from Alaska to Chile. Our ancestors were already here when he got here. Don't let him tell you most of them he brought over. He ain't brought most of the shit over here. Most of us had already, we didn't see the world as a colonizing world. We saw it as our mother, and so we traveled all over her. It was a global economy before a great catastrophe. Before the first 4 catastrophes, we went through 4 catastrophes, extinct level catastrophes on Earth, and still was the dominant Earthling. Right? The lamb's wool people were the dominant Earthlings on Earth for millions of years. Right? And we had the fall of man, and now you see you're at the level you're at now. Now you say, wow, how did we go fall that hard? See, now when you start talking about the fall that we took that hard, you have to go into the next level of understanding. You need the books that speak on those catastrophes that took place and what happened, and some of the fall of man is, a lot of the fall of man is just man himself being who he is and taking the fall so we could get to the point where we're at now. There's no struggle, it's not good. As far as the people are concerned, if there's no struggle, it's not good. But that's not true. You're not supposed to be struggling. Earth will provide everything for her people. People are making everything is here is all good. creating a blockage to the access of the good. And that's why people are suffering and have to beg, borrow, steal, and do whatever they can to sustain themselves. But in reality, that's not how it is. It doesn't act like that until the European tribes attacked the indigenous inhabitants. I'm not saying we was perfect societies. Obviously, we weren't, or they wouldn't have been able to come in and take our shit. But we let you keep even in our lowest ebb, you kept your culture, creed, nationality, ideology, genetic codes. The genetic code was left up to the people, which way they wanted it to travel. Now he's trying to change your genetic code, which he did change the lamb's wool genetic code. The lamb's wool don't. The reason why the lamb's wool is calling themselves nigger and negro and all these derogatory names that allude to slavery is because they don't know any other names. You mixed them all up, like took a whole bunch of salt and sugar and put it in water. It's all mixed up now. You'll never figure it all out. Not on that level. I mean, they can do the genetic code, but even when you look at the DNA on Ancestry.com, you'll see like 12, 13 tribes all mixed up together right there. So, it's not saying that they're not all earthlings. They are all earthlings, because earthlings, which are people can intermingle with each other. There's no problem with that. The blood can go across lines easily. That's not the problem. The problem is the European bloodlines want everything to be their way. It's their obligation to make you Christian. It's their obligation to make you speak Spanish or English or German or Russian, whatever language they speak. They want to make you speak that. That's their pet peeve. And then even after you do all of that and say you submit to their rule, it's always something else. They never satisfied. They just keep coming for something else. Now you get to these modern times. Now they done took everything and they still trying to take your life. I keeps bringing me back to George Floyd as the catalyst, prior to George Floyd and after George Floyd, how the world sees things. The world sees things a lot differently for the indigenous inhabitants of the Western Hemisphere, namely the 50 states, on what we've been. Our people have been writing numerous papers and did interviews and spoke and had speeches and classes on this subject matter. You could go and look. It makes me think of the lady who speaks on post-traumatic slave syndrome. Then you have color confrontation, and you have medical apartheid, and then you have genetic annihilation. What are the other subject you can look up? It's all talking about the same thing. Politically, you can see police brutality through the teachings and lessons from Baldwin. Listen to him, what he said. Baldwin, right? He's another good one. James Baldwin. Listen to what Paul Robeson had to say. He's a great man. Paul Robeson had to say about police brutality, Jim Crow, the prisoner of war camps, the missing in action. This has been going on in America since inception. It's just that now the people see it. Knowledge itself has been teaching the science behind police brutality way back. Noble Drew Ali, they beat the bottom of his feet. Right? They helped in the demise of the MST of A's position as it was to how it is. Marcus Garvey, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther, Malcolm X. Listen, all of them spoke about police brutality, and then what happens when you trace it back? It goes all the way back to 1555. Maybe confusing with that 1776 shit. That's when they became a government. But prior to them becoming a government, what would you think they were doing? Going buck wild on your ass. All across the planet, they were going buck wild on all of what they consider today black, brown, red, yellow. They went crazy on them. Right? They consider black, brown, red, yellow. We break everybody into colors like they did. And that's what people understand real quick. See, what you have is you have the so-called white who believes themselves to be the thumb, and that the rest of you guys, black, brown, red, yellow, are the fingers. It's a fact. And the thumb is the ruler of the hand. And if none of those fingers don't get right, we'll cut one of them off and show them who's the ruler. See what I'm saying? We'll rule with an iron hand. That's what it is. They want to rule you. And I understand that you was all good with the rulership, letting them rule you. Because you let them rule. They weren't good rulers. That's why the people are revolting against you. Because you're not a good ruler. You wanted to rule. You subjected the land with cruelty and misery and murder and mayhem, and you called it war, but it was still murder. You could rename it if you want to. You was murdering people to get what you wanted. If somebody didn't agree with what you said you wanted to do, you would come in and murder them. That's why they started making defenses to stop you from getting them, making walls that were too high for you to climb. That's mostly what they would do when they were they didn't want to attack you. They could have attacked you long before you were able to defend yourself, when you didn't really know how to use weapons and stuff, because you're the last one to learn how to fight. Everybody else knew how to fight before you. Now, some of the nations were smaller than you. So the people were smaller and less violent, and you used that as your advantage to subdue them and call them weak. Because in your ideology, strength is based on how much gravity can't hold you to the ground and hold things that you move to the ground. So if I weigh 100 pounds and you weigh 250 pounds, the sheer mass makes it almost impossible for the 100 pounds to defeat 250 pounds. Especially if they're both evenly trained. If they're both evenly trained in the same art of combat, the 250 pounder is probably going to win. Just on the fact that they have the most mass and can do the same thing you do. They know how to sneak, fight, sword fight, fence, martial arts, short range and long range weapons. What? They're all the same projectiles. Whether it's AK-47 or a rocket ship, or sending a rocket across. Same propulsion system, basically. Right? And they changed the fuel and all that, but it's still movement. It's the same force trajectory. And so the Europeans mastered projectiles that pierced the skin and were able to defeat your physical capabilities, your prowess, your athleticity, your athletic abilities couldn't match something that can take you down 500 meters. I can hit you with this projectile at 500 meters. There's no way you can really beat me, right? So it came to the point where the Europeans pretty much controlled the earth through force. They didn't control the earth through knowledge. They wasn't smarter than none of the other nations. They controlled them through military might. That's how they did it. And so, let's get it correct now. I don't think they ran around here being the smartest people on earth and made everybody subjugate to them. No, they did it with might. Strength. Who's the strongest? And that the two polarities, the black and the white, are the two opposite polarities. Everybody else is in the middle, black, brown, red, and yellow, right? You can see the way it's lined up. And so they feel like, well, they want to, because they feel like their biggest and strongest person can run through mostly all the other races. They think that the yellow race, that they're stronger than them physically. And they think the red race, they think they're stronger than them physically. Even though they was giving them a run for their money. I think all of them gave them a run for their money, but they didn't win because of the projectiles. Right? Because even if they didn't have, you see it throughout the cultures. You'll see when you look at IP Man, Yip Man, Master Yip, Sensei Yip Man, you will see that it's always somebody trying to oppress. At first, the brown, which they would consider the brown, the Japanese were oppressing the yellow. Even though in the Chinese and the Japanese to the Americans, they all were yellow. They didn't consider them the brown. They considered the brown ones like Cambodia, Malaysia, Vietnam. They're darker skinned ones. Malaysia, all of them. But they still had the Chinese looking eyes, so that people understand what I'm saying. It's the colloquial words they were using was slant eyes, right? That's what they were saying. They had those words for them. Like they had words for us. They had words for everybody. Even their own self. They got words. Watch that movie Constantine. You see when Constantine and the Boomerang, they meet up with each other. They both from that island. One is Scotland, Wales, the Highlanders, and the British, and them. It's them, right? And they got names for each other too. He was calling him Kike and Whale and this and that. And they were just going fucking wanker and, all that. I didn't even understand what the fuck they was talking about when it came to the slang itself. But they know what the fuck it means. People who from England and shit, they know what that means when they heard that shit on Constantine, because he's from England. And the Boomerang guy, which is crazy because the Boomerang guy is from Australia and throws boomerangs. Think about it. Boomerangs come from the Aborigines. How the fuck is he the superhero for boomerangs? It just doesn't correlate right. So anyway, I'm just saying, I just point those shits out. What I'm saying is, that's what knowledge of self does. It enables you to see right through the muckety-muck. And the veil has been lifted. And you read and remember, right? Those are like key knowledge of self things. Read and remember. So to read and remember, and the veil must be lifted, to even act like you want to lift the veil, you need a 3-day fast, right? And so that's why we do it in 21-day increments. And so, like I said, once you do the plant, go raw plant-based. Even if you don't understand which plants you should eat or shouldn't be eating, don't worry about that right now. Get to the point where you're eating raw plant-based. Do that for your first 7 days. There's your 1 day. Right? You're going to break those 1 days up into the 3-day fast. It's going to end up being a 21-day fast. And then on the second day, which is the next 7 days, you're going to do those same raw fruit juices. I mean, those same raw vegetable diet, raw fruit and vegetable diet. You're going to still go raw fruit and vegetable diet. But on day 2, which is really the next 7 days, is what I'm trying to emphasize. It's going to all be in raw juice form. You're going to get you a little bullet and you're going to do it. Now, you could start doing that on the first day, too. You could just use all raw things and put it in a bullet or a blender or anything like that. Because you want to change your colon. Don't cheat and take laxatives and all of that. No cheating. You have to use raw fruit and vegetables to do it because you want to cleanse the physical composition, not at just the colon level where you're moving the fecal matter out of the physical composition, but you want to clean the body at a cellular level. Am I saying that right? Cellular level? If I'm not, somebody say it for me. Right? And make sure the children get the correct pronunciation. And so now, that's day 2. You would have went 14 days now on raw fruit and vegetables. Preferably, we like you to use the blender because that eases on the digestion. Right? As much as you want. Don't worry about how much you're eating of the raw because you're trying to move everything out of you, really. And try to put at least a gallon of water in your body every day, right? See how it gets a little intricate there if you really want to cleanse your physical composition, right? Right, so now you're working on day 14, and so you're going to hit the next one. And so you're just going to repeat the same thing, but this time you're just going to all be the green. You're going to leave the fruit out, and it's just going to be the green. Now, you're going to use things like monk fruit or something like that doesn't have any, it tastes sweet, but it doesn't have the sugar that your body will react a different way to the fruit sugar versus alcohol type sugar. And so we're going to try to do our best to go with all the raw green things and just barely make it sweet if you can't handle that green taste yet because it's an acquired taste. What you'll do to offset it is you'll add apple to it. Remember, apple is the great mixer it'll course with everything. It'll cross over with fruit. It'll cross over with green. It won't cause any adverse action. So to taste, you'll try to put apple in there, right? And you can counterbalance things with water, apple cider vinegar, and lemon. That's a very good combination for just plain. Now that's what's going to happen after you hit your 21st day of the raw fruit juices. Your system should be really nice and ready to go into the 3-day water fast. And now when you go into that 3-day water fast, that's when everything changes. So by now you would have already been studying 21, 22, 23, 24 days, right? You're on your 24th day of study now. And system should be changing. And then by then you would have noticed which fruits and vegetables you should and shouldn't eat. If you're going to be an animal eater, then you're going to know to look at Leviticus 11. That's going to be your guide for animals. If you are vegan or vegetarian, then your guide will be CB, Africa. I say your guide because you're still going to make your own adjustments based on your other research that you use. You can use How to Eat to Live, book 1 and book 2, and what they call nowadays, they hijacked How to Eat to Live and they call it ketosis, but it's the same thing. That's what they call it, ketones. You're going to have some of these because knowledge of self, nutrition is the foundation to all of those different diets that they use, because they all use a part of knowledge of self-nutrition to achieve their goals. So you'll have that. You'll see for instance, you'll see that we do those 16 hours in between the next meal. That's normal. How do you eat to live? 1 meal a day. You break the hour, 24 hours in a day. 16 hours you're not eating. 8 rest and 8 inactive, of letting your body absorb whatever it already had. It takes about 33 hours for the food that you digested to leave the body as the waste matter that's left over from it. Right? So you're taking yourself through those levels of knowledge of self. And so your body is clean, and now when you're absorbing the information, it's totally different. Plus you fixing yourself. The knowledge of self is based on the problem. He said, I don't have any problems. That's why I didn't have the problem book. Well, we got problems. We need the problem book, because we have a lot of problems. If you don't think we have problems, ask George Floyd if there wasn't a problem. The dude was on his neck. Yeah, that was a problem right there. See, so we have problems. You have problems. The police run up on the back of you and you original man and you in the car. You don't even care if it's black ones or white ones or Chinese ones or whichever kind of one it is. When I date the police, I know there's a chance that they might flip out on me. That's what I'm saying. And when I'm with my European friends, they don't have that same anxiety. When police come up on them, they don't feel like the police is going to shoot them and flip out on them. If anything, they feel like they ain't going to. Hey, buddy. That's how they talk to them. You say, hey, buddy. They'll be flipping out on your ass. They don't even give you a chance to say, hey, buddy, shut up. Get on the ground. Don't you move. I put a cap in your ass. Shut the fuck up. That's exactly what they say when they come to us. They do not come up being nice. Very rarely do you have some civilized ones and they come up acting nice. But normally, they'll be civilized with their European brethren. They just won't be civilized with you. Because it goes all the way back to that 1555. They still on that. That shit is still prevalent in there. Don't sleep that the 70% satisfied is still running shit and 30% dissatisfied with their procedures. Just like that, it was a priest from Spain. He didn't start out as a priest, but he ends up being a Jesuit priest. And he wrote a lot of papers against Spain and the way they treated the indigenous inhabitants. And even though he was still twisted in his thought pattern, because at the end of the day, they still believe Mongoloid, Caucasoid, Negroid. They still believe that. And as long as that's in the root of their concept of what the world is really about, then they're never going to make the right decision based on knowledge, because their wisdom is skewed by their foundation. And yours is skewed by the foundation that they gave you. That's why your decisions aren't good. You're not buying hair for your head because you have good decisions based on information. You're doing it because they made you feel as if your hair is not right and exact. When your hair is the root of all hair. There is no hair on people without your lamb's wool. That's why you the only one got it. None of the other... Look at it. If they go black, brown, red, yellow, white. Which one got the lamb's wool? Yes. And you're absolutely right. In lamb's wool, we'll see people that are so light, they could be looking like they white because they'll be albino. And we got black, brown, red, yellow in our group, because you will even say he's red, she's yellow, they're clear, and all that. So we got everything in our group. We have straight hair and lamb's wool hair. We have all the hair in our group, but they don't have lamb's wool in theirs, unless it came from us. See? That's what you ain't catching. And that's the root. And the beauty is standard now is a European standard. That's been brought on since he had to cultivate you to think that way. That took time. It took millennia for him to do it. To do that to you. He's been ruling for a good 6,000. When we be talking about 1555, that's just from Alaska to Chile. But the other dominant factors that he's been doing to you, been on your ass about 6 grand. About 6,000 years he been putting foot to ass. We got to the point where now he kind of running everything. Right? And so now we're in the position now that we're at now. So we're appealing to the rulers to say, take your knee and your foot off our necks and backs and stop sitting on us and holding us down to the ground and shooting us in the back like, I don't know. I don't see you shooting criminals in the back. I see you shooting civilians in the back. Shit like that. Why are you doing that kind of shit to stop us from coming up? That's why. What do you think it is? That's part of the foot on your back. Why do you think the education system is fucked up? If people with knowledge of self and who teach knowledge of self, the only reason why they have to do it is because the education system's so fucked up, you don't even know it's the truth. And that's why they're doing that. That's why there's knowledge of self all over the place, trying to get it to you. But at one time, it was only a few motherfuckers that had it. And now it's spread all over the place, and a lot of us have it, and we're giving it out, and the people are waking up to it. Like I said, look at the world in those increments. See those things like before the World Trade Center and after the World Trade Center. See before George Floyd and after George Floyd. See before Trayvon Martin and after Trayvon Martin. Right? See before, what was the guy in California? And they had the riots and shit. I forget his name, but it'll come to me later. But the Watts riots. Remember that? Remember the hippies and free love. And that's going to bring you right into the Vietnam era world. Prior to the Vietnam War and after. During the Vietnam War, before the Vietnam War, and after the Vietnam War. If you look at it, you'll say, before the Vietnam War, Jim Crow was running prevalent. See how it just connects? The timeline connects, Lord. Word is born to the Father. We could defeat them, but you need to get the devil off your planet. If you look at the foundation to defeating the devil, first thing you got to do is get him off your planet. If you don't get him out of your system, if you don't get him out of your organs and your bloodstream, if you don't get him out of your body at the cellular level, you need to redo your mitochondria, your cell engine. We overhaul the engine. You don't understand it. Every time you put something in your mouth, it eventually is broke down to give to the cell. And synthetic garbage in give you garbage out. You can't buy your food based on money. You got to buy your food based on if it's food or not. You can't think, well, it's synthetic food, but it's cheaper. No, it's synthetic food and it's not cheaper. It gets you at the other end. You pay little now eating it, but later the damage it does to your physical composition, you pay on that end. You can't even survive without the pharmaceuticals. Half of our population is already dead. They just don't know they're dead. And the only way they could undead themselves, they're the walking dead already. They're already the zombies. That's why they gotta take those pharmaceuticals. If you think they not the walking dead, then stop taking all those medicines. You'll be dead in no time. That means that you're dependent on the medicine, meaning that you're already dead. Your organs can't sustain you without that medicine. And you'll be dead. So that means you are dependent on the pharmaceutical country. You right back in slavery again. You the same. Your shit ain't free. You ain't free. You can't even do without. If a catastrophe happens right now and they can't get medicine to you, you're done. But it's all the water you want and all the fruit you want. If you ain't already fixed yourself, you might not survive the repair process. Sometimes the repair process, you have to keep taking the pharmaceuticals till your body starts repairing, and then they take you off of their medicine. You just can't walk off the plantation. You have to get off with Harriet Tubman or somebody. Somebody got to help you get off, but Like she said, some of y'all don't realize you slaves, so that's why she can't help you. So she can't even tell you knowledge of self dietary laws because you don't even know your plantation. The devil is all in your planet. He all on you. How you gonna get away from white Jesus? You can't even get away from white man food. That's basically how they would say it in the old days. You can't get away from the white man's food. White man don't like you saying it that way. But basically that's what you're saying. Now who run the pharmaceuticals? You can't get away from the European pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical company's foundation ain't Africa, it's Europe. Okay? Believe that. That's the truth. And there's no getting around that. Right? If you want to naturally increase muscle mass and naturally decrease body fat and naturally strengthen up your organs and naturally increase your spinal fluid at an equilibrium with the planet, and she's an ecological disaster. If you want to change all those things, first planet you have to fix is your planet, the one you're living in. You're in there. The planet, you're not that planet. You're on that planet. And if you don't take care of it, you won't be on it long. You'll be getting off of it. Right? If the like he says, he wants to be the thumb and you other motherfuckers are gonna be the fingers and y'all gonna close in, he's gonna go on top of you. See, he's on top of you. The only one really can get away with it is the thumb. That's without a thumb, your shit fucked up. And he's saying without him, y'all are fucked up. Y'all don't really know how to run the world without him. That's how he's kicking it. Yet there was a global economy 35,000 years ago. The Sphinx proves it. Global economy. All of Zecharia Sitchin's writings show and prove there was a global economy. What? And that's not even I'm not even talking about 120. I'm talking about people outside of 120. Show and prove. Look at the writings of J.A. Rogers. Look at the writings of Dr. Ben. Look at the writings of Henry Clark. What? All of those lies that he told has been refuted, but you still don't understand. You still chasing the devil. You know what you at least say? You still chasing the gods of Europe whom you know nothing of. And that's what you're doing. And the father would say, but it's irrelevant. I don't care if they chase after the gods of Europe and all of that, but they still need to have knowledge of self. If you have knowledge of self, you'll stop chasing. Don't try to make them stop chasing the gods of Europe. Just give them knowledge of self. They're going to automatically stop. Knowledge of self will fix everything. It'll fix diet, health, well-being, economics. It's got all of the components it needs. You economically change, everything changes. But as long as you stay a Negro, and you a Negroid, and y'all want to be Caucasoid, and y'all want to be Mongoloid, as long as y'all stay with that bullshit, the earth ain't gonna be fixed. It's gonna stay fucked up. You gotta let all that shit go. All that shit is garbage. Just go to Earthling. We gonna all be Earthlings. We take it from there. Once we do that, once you stop acting like wealth and gold and all that, man, 3,600 years is coming back around. Y'all better be ready for the real shit. Right? 3,600. Other shit happens. Every 3,600 is coming around, son. It's your chance to get together and be one unit. Like Elijah would say. Well, he'd do that coffin theology at time, but pretty much the nations will follow you. If the lamb's wool, realize that the lamb's wool is the shit, and fall in love with the lamb's wool and the features that come with lamb's wool. When we do that, then we'll take the devil off our planet. If you don't do that, you can't get him off, right? And so we know these things now to be true, and so we look at the other side and we say knowledge and the understanding. And we doing the knowledge to the understanding. And that's going to bring us into mastery. We're going to master our self mastery. And that's when you're going to take it to the next level and you're going to release. So, I just wanted to give us on the progress report. It's been like 2 years now that the major founders, Ancient Order Free Asiatics founders, I seen that picture of the founder. That's still mergy. Because I remember the name Ancient Order, by the time the name Ancient Order Free Asiatics came around, but the order had been around since 5th grade? 3rd grade, actually. PS 147, no, PS 48, some shit like that. Then we had the club since then. We just didn't have the name Ancient Order Free Asiatics. But the club been around. And we didn't have all the information we have now because we didn't have 120 and all of that then. We only had Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Genesis, Numbers, Exodus. We was using mostly that in the early days. And we had Message to the Black Man, Our Savior's Arrived, Fall of America, How to Eat to Live, Book 1, Book 2, and The Flag of Islam. That's pretty much what we had in the beginning. And that was with the club, and we used the club, right? And then eventually we got 120, and that made us go into communications and production and arranging. And so we had production and we had publications. So that's what made Ancient Order Free Asiatics and incorporated and all that. And if you look at the list of the names that all signed, when it went from the club to Ancient Order Free Asiatics, it's more than just those 5. Because remember, Ali was there, Daoud Ali. He was there with those 5, with AZ, Laquan, Brian Washington. I don't even remember what his name was, his righteous name, because he was pretty like our liaison for representing the 85s, but not really being an 85. But he wasn't really 5%, but he was right and exact like that. Hard to explain. That's the best I can give it to you. He still had a government name, right? Everybody else pretty much had righteous name. My nephew was brand new. He was right under me, staying right there, wise. He's not biological, but he's just like he might as well be biological. More like my son than anything. Cause I did the knowledge to him, and he was like knowledge power in the streets on Bagayard Brewers, selling drugs and doing whatever the fuck he was doing. I just tell you how crazy the planet was when we was young. And so we all gravitated towards each other pretty much. What was our foundation was we all was people who had 120. And prior to that, we didn't, but when we went from the club to Ancient Order Free Asiatics, pretty much what it was saying was all of us that had 120. And we were doing the knowledge to vegan, what a vegan was and what a vegetarian was, because we was just using Deuteronomy and Leviticus in those days. We didn't know about vegan. So that's how come we got caught with the wheat also. Even though we would have been eating right and exact according to Deuteronomy and Leviticus, it didn't tell you the difference between einkorn and wheat. You had to do that research on your own. That came after. That's the rules and regulations which are not being mentioned in this lesson. Wisdom, build, destroy degree in the 1 to 40. Or the 88th degree in 120. And like I said, when the order advanced and it got into more studies, we started noticing that 120, the order in which it was in wasn't the same for depending on what zone you came from or who was your enlightener and how the tree went back to the first fruit of the Father. I mean, they zeroed down numbers saying first 9 born, first 14 born in Medina, but it's not really that simple. That's just to give you an understanding. It's not that simple. It's really what you got to look at is say the first fruit of Allah. That'll give you a real comprehensive understanding of how diverse it was. The diversity in how 120 was handed out and how come so many of us don't have it exactly the same. First of all, most of us was getting it by verbal. Right? We learned how to quote 120 verbally, then you got the paper or you wrote it down from verbal, and so shit happens. Right? And that's when the father was here. He didn't even hand it out all the same. He didn't even come with a curriculum the way he came with it till later. Remember, he's only here 5 years. So the curriculum, I'm sure if he'd have been here 20 years, it would have been totally different too. It would have been different because he would have been right here. He'd have made adjustments, and the adjustments would have been adhered to. Once he passed, everything froze from that point. They want to keep it as much as it was when he was here, because they don't know what changes he would have made because he's not here to make them. Right? We just, as young gods, we knew we got this. He wasn't here when we got this. So we added on to the cipher the way we saw. What we saw the elders do, and then we added on from there. And then life itself makes adjustments to what's going on. And so we made adjustments. When we saw food, clothing, and shelter, we immediately started going into real estate. We immediately went into college and universities. We went and got trades and professions, right? Like the twins in them. They went through what they went through, but they ended up coming out with trades. And I use them as for instance because I know them and I seen what they did and what they went through because we was all there together, 5149 area and Alameda and all of that. So I'm saying that to say that you could take the devil off your individual planet and maybe he's not off the rest of the planet, the other planets in the solar system and planets in your galaxy. Because there's planets in your galaxy which are people, other people. You don't have to know them to know that everybody needs food, clothing, and shelter. Like, you need energy, and what is your energy source? And what is your energy source doing to your physical composition? Is it helping it or is it damaging it? If you have lipomas and warts and out of the growing out of control moles and tags and all those are beginning signs that let you know that you need to take the devil off your planet. And you can't get him off if you keep eating his synthetic food. You're going to be on pharmaceuticals in no time. When I saw the sister, I said, damn, I remember her back in the days when we was in the union office. And I was like, she got crazy amounts of moles on her face now, tags and shit. That's insulin insensitive. Ask anybody that's in the world of thermodynamics to the physical composition. The other lady, she's saying, "Oh, I'm using what was she using? Weight gain, Weight Watchers." I'm like, nah, that's okay. It'll make you lose weight because of thermodynamics, but that shit ain't healing you at the mitochondria level. They not telling you what to really do because they're just cutting your portions and making your calories low. So if you need 2,500 to maintain, they make sure you get 1,500. You're going to automatically lose weight because your body's going to switch over and try to eat the fat to make up for the 500 or 1,000 calories you're missing. But you can't sustain that. That's not sustainable. You can only do that for so long. You're going to fall off that wagon. All of those programs take components from knowledge of self-nutrition and try to use it because it'll work. Pieces of it will work, but it's not sustainable. It won't work forever. And you're talking about healing your body at a mitochondria level. You, my black people, as we call ourselves in these modern days, African American, whatever you call yourself, you had lamb's wool and your ancestors had lamb's wool and you identify with the lamb's wool even if you do permit. You need to heal your system different than Those people who just want to lose weight, that's not what you're doing. Get healthy and you will lose weight. That's what you're supposed to be aiming towards. Healthy to lose weight, not lose weight to get healthy. That's not how it happens. You don't lose weight to get healthy. You get healthy and you automatically lose weight. Your body automatically will regulate itself if you put the right things in it. And I'm here to help you get that shit right. Because we did the research. We know what we're talking about. We've been doing this shit since the 80s, so we made plenty of mistakes. We got people that their kidneys wasn't right. Shit wasn't right because we just didn't know what we were doing. We might have been vegetarian and still eating texturized soy protein and all them different fake meats that they got on the market. Even the good ones ain't good, and the fake cheese ain't good. How you come out better eating real cheese than the fake cheese? I read the both ingredients. It's crazy. At least if you're eating the real shit that doesn't have any enzymes, isn't bovine, the cow was grass-fed, wasn't tortured, wasn't artificially inseminated, they was free-range and walking around eating wild grasses, and that cow's milk will be different, and that cheese won't be the same as the cheese from, say, Kraft and all them crazy motherfuckers. They torture the animals, PETA be on their ass. Torture the animals to get some kind of product out of them to increase their sales and make their bottom line so good and all that craziness they be doing in American media and Wall Street areas and shit like that. So that's what you want to look at, those type of things. So you want to keep the basics. No grain, no starch, no soy, no dairy, right? Right, I said that right? No grain, no starch, no soy, no dairy, no sugar. You see any of those names on any of those packages that you're getting ready to buy, throw that shit back down. Don't fuck with that. Because that's you in the beginning stages. At first it's going to look like you're going to be thinking there's nothing to eat. I can't buy nothing, there's nothing to eat and all this. You don't really need a lot of different foods. You just need the right foods. So I would suggest go online and look up all the superfoods and buy those. And then you got to be careful not to get the superfoods that the European thinks are superfoods, because he'll mix in slave food with superfood. And like kale is a superfood, but it's not a superfood for people. It's a superfood for 3 stomach animals. Mustard greens, collard greens, those kind of greens are for animals that have chew a cud and have a split hoof, or don't have a split hoof and chew a cud, because rabbits and them can eat that too. People should be eating plants that are more like spinach. That's the plant for you, right? Everybody has their own plant. Everybody has their own diet and food. Every animal. You're a mammal and you're an earthling and you have a certain diet. Because you can't be eating any green. You can't eat those green plants that you growing in your house as a vine and all that. You can't eat that. You could, but your body can't get nothing out of that. It's certain food it needs to break down and turn it into fatty amino acids, protein amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. That's what the fuck it wants. Water. It wants that. H2O. It's what it wants. Doesn't want anything else. Glucose is getting it out of the fruit and vegetables. It doesn't want that fake glucose you giving it, that synthetic glucose you give it. It'd rather you gave it a blueberry or a boysenberry or apple or something like that. It would rather that than you gave it a candy bar. Can't do anything with that, really. Candy bar, you should have gave it an apple, some macadamia nuts. What else would be in there? What would be equal to that caramel shit? Get some cocoa for the chocolate. The maca for the caramel type shit. That'll make it thicker. Like chewy, gooey nougat and all that. For some honey. There's some gooey and nougat, right? And all of that. And some almond butter, cashew butter, any of that, and use that for your candy. That would be way better to your physical composition at the cellular level than that Snickers bar could ever be. So that's the type of maneuvers we're gonna make. We've been making, and the changes have been great. We've seen the lipomas shrink and leave. We've seen the moles just disappear, just go. Like dudes, like whoa, moles going, tags falling off, muscle mass increasing, body fat decreasing, taking off the hypertension medicine, taking off the diabetes medicine, and everything is all good. It's just that people don't want to make the switch. Like one guy said, "Oh, I can't do it. My doctor told me your dietary law is too restrictive." I think that the one you're on is not restrictive enough. That's what the fucking problem is. You can get to eat anything. Any synthetic food that you want to eat, any old garbage, fuck it, you know. But I'm saying to you, if you're gonna do that, then you have to. You must take the pharmaceuticals or you will die. You cannot eat synthetic food and don't take the pharmaceutical company's medication that goes along with it, or you'll die. That's a fact. If you don't want to be on medication, then you can't eat synthetic food. You have to go organic. And that's just how it is. Like, knowledge of self works that way. Knowledge of self, you either knowledge of self or you not. You can't be, right? You can't have knowledge of self and then be cooning and dancing. That don't work. The knowledge of self people will reject you as a knowledge of self person. They're going to say, oh, you ain't really got it. If you still cooning and dancing, you didn't get it. And you don't have it yet. And I'm out. Peace.